Whenever you hear about tensions between the United States and Iran, it's really easy to picture these two evenly matched giants staring each other down. But the truth? It's way, way more complicated than that. So let's break down this really fascinating strategic puzzle and get into what is probably one of the biggest military mismatches on the entire planet. Right out of the gate, the numbers are just wild. I mean, the US spends over 50 times more on its military. It has more than double the number of active duty troops. This isn't a gap, it's a massive canyon. So the real question is, how can these two forces even be talked about in the same breath when it comes to a potential conflict?
Well, to get that answer, you got to first understand what that absolutely massive budget actually buys. And we're going to start with America's conventional military might, which is, to put it mildly, overwhelming.
Let's just take air power as an example. We're talking more than 13,000 military aircraft. And look, it's not just about the sheer number. This includes the most advanced stealth fighters in the world, things like the F-22 and the F-35. In any head-to-head fight, this force is designed for one thing, to get total control of the skies and get it fast. Okay, now let's look at the oceans. 11. That's how many aircraft carriers the U.S. Navy operates. Each one is basically a floating, sovereign American airbase that can project incredible power anywhere on the globe. And that is absolutely critical here, because it lets the U.S. operate with massive force right on Iran's doorstep.
And you guessed it, on the ground, it's pretty much the same story. Over 4,600 of the most advanced battle tanks, all backed up by this deeply integrated high-tech network for command, control, and intelligence. This is a force that's literally built to fight and win a decisive head-on war.
Which of course brings us right back to that core question. You look at all this incredible firepower, and you just have to ask yourself, how on earth could Iran even begin to compete with that? Well, the simple answer is, it doesn't try to. Not in the same way, at least.
And this is where things get really interesting and, frankly, kind of brilliant from a strategic point of view. Instead of trying to match the US jet for jet or tank for tank, Iran has developed a totally different playbook. It's all built around something called an asymmetric toolkit.
So Iran's entire military strategy, it's all built around this one big idea, asymmetric warfare. It's not about trying to win a fair fight, because they know they can't. It's about making the fight unfair in your favor. Use unconventional tactics to go after your opponent's weaknesses. This is the bedrock of their entire defense strategy.
So what's actually in this toolkit? Well, it's really built on four main pillars. A huge arsenal of missiles and drones, a widespread network of proxy forces all across the Middle East, and a really unique way of thinking about naval warfare. Let's dig into a couple of these.
Okay, so first up, Iran has poured a ton of resources into becoming a regional missile and drone superpower. Now, it can't strike the US mainland, but here's the thing, it doesn't have to. The whole point is to be able to hold every US base, every asset, and every ally in the entire Middle East at risk. That alone creates a really powerful deterrent.
And you see this exact same kind of thinking at sea. The US Navy is built for global reach, projecting power everywhere. Iran's Navy? It's designed for pretty much one main mission, to threaten, and if it has to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, which is a massive choke point for the world's oil supply. And they wouldn't do it with huge warships. They'd do it with swarms of hundreds of small, fast boats, sea mines, and shore-based anti-ship missiles.
So all of this leads us to what's actually happening on the ground today. Because a full-scale, head-on war is the one thing both sides really want to avoid. The real conflict, the one being fought right now, isn't on some huge conventional battlefield. It's being fought in the shadows.
So what you get is this constant back-and-forth cycle. Iran uses its network of allied militias, its proxies, to hit U.S. interests without using its own forces directly. And in response, the U.S. doesn't launch a full-scale invasion. It uses things like precision airstrikes, special operations, and cyber attacks to hit back at those networks. It's this ongoing, simmering conflict fought mostly through intermediaries.
And this quote really just hits the nail on the head. The combat is real, no question, but it's mostly indirect. It's all designed to achieve goals without lighting the fuse on a catastrophic all-out war.
All right, so what's the big picture here? What does all this mean? It's not really about who would win in a simple sense. It's about a very carefully managed, incredibly tense strategic balance. You could call it the Great Standoff. And when you put it all on a table like this, it just becomes crystal clear. The US has the edge in pretty much every single conventional box you can check. Budget, tech, global reach, you name it.
But then you look at Iran's column, and you see how they've smartly carved out these niche strengths. That huge regional missile arsenal, their coastal swarming ability, that robust proxy network, that are tailor-made to counter U.S. advantages right there in the region.
So here's the bottom line. In a straight-up, head-to-head war, there is no doubt about U.S. superiority. But that's not the game Iran is playing. Its entire asymmetric strategy is designed to make the cost of starting that war incredibly, painfully high for the United States. So high that it acts as a powerful deterrent. And that creates the standoff we're seeing today. And that kind of leaves you with this one big, thought-provoking question. This whole US-Iran dynamic really shows us that overwhelming power isn't the only thing that matters anymore. It makes you wonder, in the 21st century, does the bigger, more expensive army really always hold all the cards?